So we have seen another example of an interesting use of deep learning, in this case for research. It could have also been some product that we can use in a small company. The resources needed to do this are not super huge. You can learn how to implement these deep learning networks, how to process data in a similar way in a reasonable amount of time, in some weeks of learning to code. If you already know how to code, you can have code running in a couple of days. Okay. And because this ease of use of these deep learning networks, we have seen very impressive results already, and we have spoken about them. I wanted to say that deep learning is changing our societies at various levels. For example, we can use automatic translation. I work in Japan and I read most of the university emails. I practice my Japanese reading a little bit, but once time gets short, I just use Google Translate, and that helps me understand the general thing. It makes some mistakes, but overall it works beautifully. And that works in a variety of situations. There are, let's say, teleconference softwares that can produce automatic subtitles in any language or in most languages while you are speaking, and all these things will continue to improve and continue to get better, and are already having significant impacts in our lives and in our societies. Not only this, data analysis using deep learning can be used and is being used for a variety of things, like for example fraud detection, detecting when the entity using a website is not a person but a bot trying to create some fraud. But not only that, who is going to try to steal money from a company using some sort of clever ruse. There are algorithms being developed to try to find these behaviors. Work that was done by humans is still done, but is largely aided by these deep learning systems. And data analysis is used for a lot of things. It's also used to create a personalized advertisement or recommend the music that you hear in Spotify, whatever. These things have already happened, have already changed the way our life work, and there are many more examples. I also wanted to cite medical image research or medical research in general. Well, deep learning is one of the big drivers of these areas, and actually it's also the other way around. This type of research has been one of the main galvanizing factors in developing deep learning, and that has resulted in technologies that are improving our quality of life today and have already done so recently. Okay, so deep learning is already having a significant impact in our societies, and it will continue to do so. There's been a lot of research into self-driving cars, and they are not still, owning the streets, but they are likely to get there, if you ask me. No one knows, but they are making strides, and at some point we will realize that self-driving cars are better at driving than humans. At some point they may become that. They are probably not now, and they will probably never be perfect, as we will speak in a second, but at some point they might get better than humans, and if that happens, then it will probably not make much sense to have humans driving anymore. This could happen in the near future. Natural language processing is something that's already had a huge impact, but will keep on having. Lately, ChatGPT is super popular, and how that could affect some jobs where, let's say, language is used, but perhaps they are not super specialized. It's not translating poetry, but it's creating simple advertisements or transmitting simple information that can probably be done automatically with deep learning networks. This is especially important for programmers like myself, or people who program. Simple codes which are what many people do, many programmers, professional programmers do for most of their day, can increasingly be done using automatic tools. Okay, will that mean that the job of programmers will completely disappear? I'm not so sure about that, but they will certainly change. They are already changing. And deep learning will continue to allow applications like the one I have just mentioned about the supple pine bushes by allowing for expert opinion to be included into the processing of large data sets. And if we can do that, then we can probably create many applications that have impacts in many specific areas. So deep learning can do amazing things like play Go and slightly more mundane things like predict the species in South Mountain, which are also important, but perhaps not so society changing. And it will continue to do new and amazing things, and some will be huge and some will be smaller, but equally important. But deep learning is not magic. It's not a magic bullet. It's not a technology that will solve all of our society's problems. It will perhaps solve a few of them, and it will create a few more. It's not unlimited. It doesn't work all the time in all situations. It has very clear limits at this moment. And I also want to say I'm generally an optimist about deep learning technology, but I do want to say that it's not without risks. Maybe the risks are not the ones that are most often in the news because they are not so click worthy, but there are certainly risks with any technology, and deep learning is not an exception. In the following minutes I want to speak about some of these limits and also some of these risks of deep learning networks. I will begin with some very specific issues about the limitations or the things that one has to take care of when using deep learning, and I will focus that on research because that's what I'm more familiar with. Then I will give a more general explanation on what the fundamental limitations of deep learning networks are, and we could call that, if you want, why deep learning is not that much intelligent. And finally, I want to speak a little bit about risks. I will mention the risks that I myself consider more important to address.